as many different ways to break down a chicken as there is to do anything else. There's no one way. For what I'm doing today, this is the proper way, it's a good way, but don't ever let someone tell you, oh, this is the only way that you break down a chicken, because that's just not the case. I'm going to start out with removing the wishbone. This is a good habit to get into whether you're roasting, sauteing, or whatever. And it's the collarbone. That's what the wishbone is. Okay. So the way you find that, if you haven't found it before, you can set this guy up, and right where your collarbone would be, that's where it is. You make a little slit. You can just, same place on a turkey. It's going to connect to the breastbone. Okay. You can just get that out of there. The reason we like to do that is because it is hugely in the way if you are trying to cut down through the breast if you don't remove it first. Okay? Now around the body cavity, there's usually pieces of fat that you can break out. Check the body cavity, make sure the kidneys or anything haven't been left behind. Okay? Then I'm going to open the legs. There's not much there between the body and the leg. In fact, there's nothing. Okay? So you can cut through those really easily. I'll go ahead and remove them. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to dislocate it right at the joint. This is a ball and socket joint, just like our hip joint. Okay? And where that femur runs up, you can see it right here. You can't see it, come on a little closer. Plenty of room. Okay? All I do is I take the leg, I put my fingers down here where it connects, and I just bend it, pops right out of that joint. Now, there's a bone here. You can feel all this with your hands. I'm going to cut along that bone. And then just start cutting through those ligaments until you reach that ball and socket joint. I've already dislocated it here, so it's out of there. And then right on the other side of that joint is what's called the oyster. Have you guys heard of the chicken oyster? Mm-hmm. It's a piece of meat. This is it right here. Okay? Right along the back. Right at the low back. It's a very flavorful piece of meat. It's known as a flavorful little nugget, if you will. And it sits right in this little cavity here. So this is the oyster. What's up, Chef?
Hi.
Such a hog.
Oyster, I am.
Okay, so then after I've removed the oyster, I'm going to go ahead and finish taking that leg off. So I'll do it over here again. This is hooked on. I'm going to just dislocate the joint. Okay, come down. And then use my thumb to kind of coax the oyster right out, away from the bone there. So it'll attach to the base of the leg. And then all that's left is skin. So I've got two legs with the oyster attached. This is the exact same demo that you'll get in CF3. Okay. So I kind of defat these guys a little bit. Helps keep your grazing clean. But, and you'll see, you usually do want a good amount of, as much skin left on as possible. That insulates the meat, keeps it safe when you're cooking it. Okay, so I'll do the same on this guy. Yeah, if you've ever seen skinless, boneless chicken breast that somebody's thrown in a pan, it gets really leathery. Okay, really tough. It doesn't brown up nicely. Skin, on the other hand, will. And it insulates the meat that's on the other side of it and keeps it from getting all brown and leathery. Skin gets nice and crisp. Fat renders out of it, it gets really nice. Okay? So now I'm left with the breast And there's a keel bone that runs right down the center of that, like a mohawk or something. I'm going to go to one side of it. And because I've removed the wishbone, I can make this cut very just straight down and easily. Otherwise, up here, I have to go off at an angle and cut through the middle of the breast. Now all I do is I just follow the ribs. First rule of butchery is follow the bones. Okay, so all I'm doing is I've got the ribs right in here, just put my knife against them and make a series of small cuts. And just start removing as much of that breast meat as I can until I get to the shoulder, which is very different than the joint that we just took apart here. Okay, it's not a ball and socket joint. So on one side, I'm going to remove it thusly. This is called a supreme. Okay, boneless, skin on. That's a supreme. And this other one, I'm going to do what's called an airline breast. It's where we leave the drumette on. So the easiest way to remove that wing from there is you just cut around. And you'll see that you can kind of, you're not cutting through the bone, you're just cutting through all the tendons and things. And then just kind of pull it off. And you've got this bone exposed right here. Okay? We leave that on there as kind of a garnish while you are cooking. And what that does, it kind of informs the guest, hey look, it's a real chicken, it's not something that came out of a freezer case. Gives it a little more rustic appeal. So other than that, I'm going to do the same thing, follow the bones. Except when I get down here, I'm going to actually go through the joint where it connects at the shoulder. Take all that with me. Clean this up a little bit. Okay, so we have our airline breast. So it's more or less boneless, except for one small little piece of bone. So again, this gives the guest the feeling that, hey, I'm eating something that was, butchered by hand, fabricated by hand, as opposed to something done by a machine. But it doesn't interfere with them trying to cut through and eat at the table. One thing that guests are really not interested in is doing their own dissection tableside. They want it to look rustic and look real. They don't necessarily want to do all that hard work. Question?
Can this be applied to the same thing like you were saying about with cutting vegetables and stuff like that, knife cuts, doing it over and over again? Do you have to do this a bunch of times to actually really be proficient at it, or is this
yeah. Yeah, the first few times you do this, if you've never done it before, it'll probably take you a while. You might get lost along in the anatomy and things like that. But then once you get good at it, it goes very quickly. I mean, it'll take you a minute or two to get through a bird. I would also highly recommend that you guys try this at home. Okay? Chickens are not very expensive.